MLS Aces Podcast, episode 259. This is your host, Tom Sweezy. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll say it right now to anyone on the podcast or listening to the podcast, solo episode from me tonight, which typically means it's going to be a little bit shorter. So I kind of want to dive into a few show updates first and foremost, since obviously you're listening to the podcast. You guys have listened to the show before, watched the show before. And if you haven't, then definitely go back and check previous episodes, because this is not the typical flow of the podcast of me just kind of ripping it by myself on here. But I do just want to, like I said, kind of address a few things with the show, and then we'll get into the typical kind of Major League Soccer conversation. The first and foremost, I want to say thank you guys for all the warm wishes that I've been receiving on Twitter and Instagram and social media about my marriage. I did get married 2 weeks ago, and a little over 2 weeks ago now at this point. So thank you to anyone who has wished me, well wishes to me and now my beautiful wife. Weird that I have a wife now. Weird that this is a new chapter in my life, but I'm embracing it and moving forward. I'm playing with this ring a ton. So if you see me kind of with my hands down here, it's because I'm still getting used to wearing a wedding ring. But that's first and foremost, is thank you to everyone who wished me well. Second, thank you guys for dealing with the lack of episodes or the lack of MLS Aces podcast or social media interaction going on. Bigger things have been going on, like I said, the wedding, enjoying that time with my wife, my friends, my family, the honeymoon, all that stuff that's been going on. So that's why I know I came back from the honeymoon last week. Wasn't really able to kind of fully dive into the MLS world and watch all the games or catch up on all the games in action to give you guys a really informed podcast, because that's first and foremost what I try to do here, is not just kind of BS to you guys that I watched the games or caught some stats and now I'm going to talk about it. No, like I watch the games. I give you guys my opinion, and, I know Jason, Sam, and Vaughn, definitely do as well. So thank you guys for dealing with the lack of episodes. Episodes will be coming out weekly again, and I'm back to pretty much say that. The third thing, and one person that I just named, I want to give a quick update on for the podcast, Vaughn Pullman, at VI Pullman, if you guys don't know, on Twitter and social media. Not going to say anything private that was discussed between me and Vaughn, but pretty much Vaughn is going to be taking a step back from being a quote unquote full-time member of the MLS Aces podcast. There's no full-time members. There's no part-time members. At the end of the day, we all do this because we enjoy talking about it. But pretty much Vaughn was letting me know, he's kind of taking stuff with his own personal projects and him absolutely killing it for Charlotte FC and the Charlotte FC world and everything going on there. And I fully support Vaughn in doing that. And I want him to go into that Charlotte FC world and continue to, grow in the popularity and the connections and just kind of his presence in the Charlotte FC MLS world there. So Vaughn is going to be taking more of a, shift in direction towards that. And that does mean shifting away from the MLS Aces podcast as, a weekly kind of co-host to the podcast. So in saying that, I love Vaughn. I know Vaughn's listening to this or watching this or whatever. And, I told you this, Vaughn, on our conversation. Love you. Still going to be keeping up with Vaughn, catching up with Vaughn, and obviously following everything he does on his ends when his projects do come out. And that doesn't mean Vaughn's never going to be on the podcast again. He will be. I've already told him, like, I'm going to be annoying him and getting him on the podcast. And whenever he wants to be on, he is more than welcome to come on. So I do just definitely want to toss that out there, as the third show update, really, of Vaughn is going to be stepping away from being on the show weekly. You still have myself. You'll still have Jason. You'll still have Sam. Unfortunately, just awkward timing, I will say, of this week of no Jason and Sam being on the podcast. But starting next week, we should have the trio of us back, at least two of us back, to talk about Major League Soccer, everything going on in U.S. soccer, CCL, USMNT, U.S. Women's National Team, and all that fun stuff. So, like I said, whenever it's really a solo episode of just me, it is a lot of talking on my end. It is a lot of me just, rambling and going on with my thoughts. So I kind of just want to catch up on a few things that I've missed in the 3 MLS weekdays, match days that have gone on since I've been out of the picture, since my wedding and since the honeymoon and everything like that. But first and foremost, we're shifting brains into the MLS content now. First and foremost, I definitely want to start off with, I think, what's been the most important thing that I've missed since being out, and that's the Dante Van Zier San Jose Earthquakes Jeremy Ebobisse incident. I also think Jonathan Mensah was in the middle of that incident as well. But Major League Soccer, they have announced that, I think it was starting last MLS match day, that they had suspended New York Red Bulls forward Dante Van Zier for 6 games, and it would be 6 MLS games. But I also think that rolls over into any scrimmages and U.S. Open Cup play and in training and all that stuff. But they had suspended Dante Van Zier for 6 games following an event with the Red Bulls game versus San Jose Earthquakes, where he openly later on admitted to using racist language towards what looked like Jeremy Ebobisse and Jonathan Mensah. There's been a few video clips coming out. I don't think the direct target has been identified, but I would say due to celebrations that Christian Espinoza and Kai Kamara threw out there after the incident, it was directed towards Jeremy Ebobisse, but I don't think it was ever directly said. But I think the important thing that I want to say about this and get my thoughts out there into the MLS world about this is pretty much, we've seen incidents like this pretty much pop up every single year. We saw it with the alleged incident of Taxi Fountas, the alleged incident of Franco Fragapane, and I want to say someone else more recent. Maybe it was, I feel like it was against Inter Miami, but I don't remember the alleged player that used racist language. But pretty much, like, there's no room for that in the game. Like, there's playing soccer, there's playing a sport, there's being intense, there's talking a little trash out on a field, but that's not the same thing. That's not directly part of it. And I think I said this on Twitter, and it's just the point that I want to reiterate about this is that we've now had multiple incidents of this occur year after year in Major League Soccer, and MLS, every single time it pops up, and it's awful that it keeps popping up and MLS continues to fail, but MLS continuously has the opportunity to set the precedent on how this is treated moving forward for the current incident and moving forward. MLS had the perfect opportunity to say Dante Van Zier is suspended for the season and things will be reviewed. He will have to go through some type of counseling, whatever it may be, and we will see his status come the 2024 season or whatever it may be, right? That's kind of where my brain was at initially. Again, a 6-game suspension just doesn't seem right for this. I know he's going to go through counseling, and I think the Red Bulls are putting that on him as well. But Major League Soccer had the perfect opportunity to say, starting in 2023 with this incident, we screwed up on past ones, but let's start fresh here. We're going to move forward with, this is how, whenever an incident like this happens, whenever we go through an investigation, we find that it happened, whether a player admits to it, like Dante did in this situation, that this is how we are going to move forward and handle these year-long suspension, 6-month suspension, whatever you want to say it is, right? And again, they failed. I don't think a 6-game suspension's rightful or I don't know the right word, but is correct in this situation. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's the reality of the situation. I would not assume that we see Dante Van Zier immediately following the 6-game suspension, but I've been wrong on other things before, but we'll see what happens in the future. And I think on top of this, one thing that I have failed to mention in kind of my conversation with you guys, with myself about this, is the role that Red Bulls manager Gerhard Struber played in this as well. I think it's very clear from some videos, and right, this is all alleged because this was never directly said or directly come out to be said, and maybe it has and I missed it, but it looks like Carlos Coronel came up to Struber telling him to sub Van Zier out. Struber said no, Struber said no, Struber said no. And it almost is as if he was told that this happened and he decided to keep Van Zier in the game. I think Struber should have been involved in the suspension as well, but Again, that's not this current situation we're in. Gerhard Struber continues to be the active manager on the sideline for the New York Red Bulls. And, unfortunately, again, if you don't agree with it, you don't agree with it. It is the reality. And I'm going to be talking a lot, so I'm going to need some water. So 1 second. It is the reality of the situation that Struber is still active and he still is on the sideline leading this team. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right, but he is there. And I'm going to take a pause now because my voice is cracking already 11 minutes into this thing. Okay, moving on. No good transition out of that shitty situation. Hoping Major League Soccer, hoping there is no next time in this situation, but hoping if there is a next time, the Major League Soccer does better. But let's move forward. There's a ton of moves, a ton of signings, a ton of waivers and waived players and whatever it may be in the 3 weeks that I was gone from podcasting covering this league. I'm not going to go through each signing. You guys probably don't want to hear that, and I don't really want to talk about some random center back from Europe who's come over to Austin or Houston. And I'll quickly just kind of say that Houston and Austin did both get center backs. Both teams needed center backs. Both center backs coming with a pretty decent resume. Austin center back, he's coming over from Belgium's top division, which we've seen a lot of players in Major League Soccer go to and have success. So I would like to think on the reverse, you'll have that same level of success there as well. So I'm hoping, that kind of can fix some of Austin's defensive issues, maybe pairing this new Radanovic with Leo Väisänen on that back line, and Houston getting, a Danish international center back. Maybe that's someone that you can pair with Teenage Adebe, who was fantastic in Week 8 in their matchup as well. So, maybe those two pieces can be some nice additions to help Houston, who's looked very good this year, and help Austin, who's looked very bad this year and in need of some defensive efforts. Even though I know it was a 0-0 draw this past week for them against Vancouver, but still, they need center back help. They need center back depth. I like Alex Ring, but I don't think Alex Ring is the long-term solution at center back next to Leo Väisänen. Minnesota United, they got their own kind of exciting young player and maybe their third attempt at striker. But Minnesota, they did sign striker Sang-Bin Jeong from Wolves in the Premier League. He never actually played for Wolves, but he does have experience at Grasshopper FC and Suwon Samsung Blue Wings. He is a South Korean international at a young age, so that does kind of have me a little excited about this move, that he could potentially develop into that striker that Adrian Heath and the Minnesota United front office have not gotten at the end of the day from a Luis Amarilla and a Mender Garcia at this point. I know Zhang played at the 10 behind Amarilla this past week, and I'm not going to say it was a great game from him, or, as a second striker, as a 10, whatever you want to call it. It was a little ugly. I think it was his first game in Major League Soccer, so I won't hold that too much against him, but I am excited about the possibility of what he could become in Major League Soccer. And I think his profile is an exciting one for Minnesota United fans to get some hopes up around. And I'll move forward into talking about my team. I won't dive too deep into it since this news is a few weeks old at this point, but NYCFC obviously making some moves. First, they bring in on loan Richie Ledesma from PSV. Ledesma's time in Europe, his time at PSV, not the most successful, I would just say, due to injury. He has had a tough time staying on the field, but he's won some cups over with PSV in the Netherlands, and he got his first assist this past weekend against Nashville, and I'm liking him as a young, exciting attacking mid option behind Santi Rodriguez. And almost like when we brought Keaton Parks over from Benfica, I like that maybe Ledesma at PSV just isn't the right fit, isn't the right time for him right now. And we can bring Ledesma in, and maybe he could be a very high level starting 10 in Major League Soccer, like Keaton Parks is turning into kind of a high level number 8 in Major League Soccer as well. So we'll see what comes of that. But just to quickly stick on the NYCFC train, they also loaned out winger Thiago Andrade to Brazil's top division. Obviously, Andrade was a key bench player for NYCFC over these past 2 years. Personally, it sucks to see him go. I know he never actually truly, I'm not going to say turned into anything. I think he's a very good player. I think he's a very good, talented young player, and you can see that in flashes, but I don't think he ever fully, truly fit into the NYCFC system to fit into this. I know Matias Pellegrini really hasn't done much so far in his short NYCFC career, but I think you can almost see Pellegrini fitting into that system, fitting into that style better than what Andrade had done in his I think it was like 40 something games with NYCFC, but he is an MLS Cup champion. He is a Campeones Cup champion. Maybe we do bring him back from this loan after 2023 and he can be an important piece for us moving on into the future, but I doubt it. I feel like we've seen the last of him in MLS, and I wish him all the luck in the world. But also, finally, sticking with NYCFC, just saying that NYCFC did use their MLS Next Pro side to their advantage, giving an MLS contract to right back Steven Turnbull. Hell of a player, Long Island's very own, and I love my Long Island soccer players in Major League Soccer. Sticking with the MLS Next Pro call-ups, I would say, TFC, Toronto FC, they did give an MLS contract to central midfielder Alonso Coelho Camarero. I think he is initially from Spain, but they did give him the call up from TFC2 to Toronto FC on that MLS deal. So shout out to Alonso. Sporting Kansas City, they waived MLS veteran left back Ben Sweat. And he did sign as a free agent to the New England Revolution. Ben Sweat's been bouncing around Major League Soccer for a bit, most notably with NYCFC, SKC, Inter Miami. But the two-time U.S. men's international fullback, I love Sweatinho. I've loved Sweatinho ever since his days with NYCFC. I think he's unfortunately fallen off a little bit in his play over the last few years. I think injuries have also had a major part of that. Obviously, when he signed with Columbus and when he signed with Austin as well, and injuries really just affecting maybe his confidence or his just ability to play at the highest level. But I do like Ben Sweat. I like Ben Sweat as a backup fullback option in Major League Soccer. And, I think that's what he's going to be to DeJuan Jones in New England. And I mean, that's not awful at the end of the day. Helps New England with their strong start to 2023 in potentially just continuing to bolster up their lineup and bolster up some depth for a long 2023 calendar year. The Galaxy, they bring in a loanee goalkeeper from the Serbian top division, right? Sounds like, Jonathan Bond's going to be out for a little bit. Jonathan Klinsmann being the starting keeper right now. I don't think LA Galaxy 2 has a goalkeeper that's ready to be kind of called up as a backup option. So they do bring in Novak Mikovic on loan from Serbia's top flight. Speaking of loanees and sales and all of that, FC Cincinnati, they do recall winger Isaac Atanga from his loan in the Turkish top division, and they do sell him to the Norwegian side, Alsons FK. Atanga, was one guy who kind of came in. He was a youth international, and I think there was a big hype around him when he came in. I think FC Cincinnati's kind of messiness during that period when they brought him in really just kind of screwed him over with having any type of success here in the U.S. And I mean, good for him that he's able to get some time playing in Europe, and Cincinnati can get him off the books. And it just kind of seems like a fair, even kind of payoff trade-off for everyone involved there. Speaking of a youth international that has, I think, potential high ceilings here at Major League Soccer, LAFC, they do it again. They've signed center mid Matthias Bogs. probably butchered the hell out of that name. I apologize, Matthias. But they signed him from Leeds United in the Premier League. For someone so young, I think he's 21 years old. He has a very extensive youth international background, 18 caps for the Poland U21s, 4 goals and 7 assists in that time, like showing, he was a key part to that team and most likely being looked at by the Poland top, national team as well. But 106 career games at a young age, and he has played for Leeds United. He's played for 2 teams in the Segunda division, and he's also played in the Poland's top division as well. Like, at a young age, this guy has been around. He's played in some of the best leagues in the world already. So the fact that LAFC can kind of do this again and grab him, and especially if Jose Cifuentes is gone this summer. I know we said that in the offseason that, what are they going to do if Cifuentes sells and everything like that? Maybe they try to keep Cifuentes for the 2023 season, but if they don't, then I think between Timothy Tillman, Kellen Acosta, Ilie Sanchez, and now Matthias here, I think it's a very well-rounded midfield for LAFC. And then you get to keep Cifuentes if they do. On top of that, that's sick. But I think you make this move because you know that you are going to be selling Jose Cifuentes this summer. Speaking of kind of wild moves as well, because I think that's a wild player to add to your team, to add to Major League Soccer. Let's talk about an interleague trade. CF Montreal, they trade away all-star center back Kamar Miller and 1.3 million in general allocation money to Inter Miami for attacking midfielder Bryce Duke and forward Ariel Lassiter. Wild trade. When I first read this trade, I thought it was Bryce Duke, Ariel Lassiter, and 1.3 million again to Montreal for Kamal Miller. No, Montreal is giving up arguably their best player and $1.3 million in general allocation money to Miami for Bryce Duke, who I love, and I will never talk bad about Bryce Duke, but the dude needs a home and he needs consistent minutes, and he hasn't gotten that. And we'll see if that ever comes for him. And I really hope it does. And I really hope Montreal's the spot for it. But you're giving up an unproven young talent in Bryce Duke and Ariel Lassiter, who, no offense to Ariel Lassiter, this is not like it's the same Ariel Lassiter who was on the Costa Rican, national team kind of borderline. Like, he's past that at this point in his career. But we'll see. I don't know. Inter Miami, they do need some defensive help, and I do like the addition of Kamal Miller, especially if they're going to stick with that 3 men in the back. I think that kind of frees up Chris McVie, to either bump to the other center back spot where you can push DeAndre Yedlin up into like a right wing back or a right midfielder type spot instead of putting him at a right center back. I really don't like DeAndre Yedlin as a right center back in a back 3, or you put Kamal Miller kind of there, bumping Chris McVie up into a left wing back type of spot. I know Franco Negri is there, but I think it's either you keep McVie as a center back and you put him on that right side and you allow DeAndre Yedlin to play his best position. Personally, that's what I like the best, and that's what I would do if I'm running things at Inter Miami, because Kamal Miller is such a huge talent. He's a Canadian championship winner. Like I said, he was an MLS All-Star with Montreal last year, and I know there was a ton of rumors that he was potentially going to be sold this summer to a European team. I guess things kind of broke down there, and Inter Miami's the home right now. But he's turned into a Canadian men's national team like mainstay on that roster whenever there's an international window. He has 32 caps for this team. He was in Qatar for Canada and for this World Cup. So Kamal Miller, great talent. I'm excited to see what he can do with Miami, and that he kind of got out of a shitty situation in Montreal. And I think he could push Miami into being one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, because they need center back help. They need defensive help. They also need some help scoring right now, obviously. But I think Kamal Miller can help Inter Miami a lot right now, and I'm excited about that. Not really going to touch the Montreal side of it. Sorry, Montreal fans. But Inter Miami, they also do sign a D mid as a free agent after, obviously, the Gregory injury, which has been huge and I think has really hurt them with their hot start to 2023. But Dixon Arroyo coming over, the former Ecuadorian First Division champion, really played most of his career if not all of it, in the Ecuadorian First Division, 2 caps for Ecuador as well. So hopefully he can step in as the much needed sixth to replace Gregory and kind of give him that production as well. The final move that I'll talk about, and I know I literally said I'm not going to go through all the moves, but just trying to give you guys major highlights and my thoughts of kind of what I've missed as well. But LA Galaxy, they waived MLS veteran left back, kind of, similar, I guess, to Ben Sweat here, but they waived MLS veteran left back Chase Gasper. I don't think it's been officially announced on the MLSsoccer.com site, but I think I did see it on social media that the Houston Dynamo, they picked up Chase Gasper, and he will now be playing his soccer down in Houston. I said this on Twitter once I saw the news that the Galaxy waived Gasper. His career is far from over. I think he's 26 or 27 years old, right? He's in his prime right now of his career, and I know the last few years haven't been the most kind to him with some off-the-field stuff, which I think has kind of led to a dip in play or a dip in production on the field. But Chase Gasper at one point in his career was arguably, he does have a cap for the USMNT, but he was arguably getting multiple looks for the USMNT at one point in his career. He was one of the best left backs in Major League Soccer when he was playing for Minnesota United. Things didn't really work out for him at the Galaxy, but I do think if put in the right situation, put in the right position, that he could get back to the days of being one of the better fullbacks, one of the better left backs within Major League Soccer. And right now, Brad Smith hasn't really been able to get onto the field for Houston. Franco Escobar, I like him better as a right back compared to a left back, but he's been very shaky and very questionable for me in the Houston Dynamo uniform. So why not Gasper? Why not allow this guy, I was about to call him a kid, he's my age, but why not allow this guy to get onto an MLS field, get MLS minutes, and prove that he's still got it, and give him the best opportunity to do so. And for Houston, pretty much as close to, the cheapest possible fee, I'm assuming. I don't know any insider information into that. I'm just taking an assumption that Chase Gasper is making, not making the most money in Major League Soccer right now. Why not get, potentially a dude who can play at the best of his position in Major League Soccer for a lower fee or lower price. So I think it's a win-win for Chase to get back on the field. I think it's a win-win for Houston to potentially get a big-time talent at a lower cost. So I'm happy for Chase. I'm a big fan of his game, and I hope that he is an absolute baller down with Houston and hold it down. Right? No, that's not it. It's I'm going to have to clip that. That's not good. But let's steer away from some MLS news. And I just quickly want to talk about some of the action of last weekend and some more action. We'll start with the big game of the weekend, El Tráfico. Let's talk about it. You guys know that I don't think this is the best rivalry in Major League Soccer. I think it's a push, a media push to be the best rivalry. But they are always good games, and I will give them that. But congratulations to LAFC on their 3-2 win, their first road victory in El Tráfico, their first win at the Galaxy in this rivalry. Carlos Vela with an absolute baller game. The curler he hit, I think it was for the first goal, if I'm not mistaken. The curler he hit to get past Jonathan Klinsmann was absolutely like 2017, 2018, when Carlos Vela first came to LAFC, like beautiful, like just dominant. This was a dominant game from him, if you ask me, right? Like outside of numbers of obviously 2 goals and an assist, but he really just put on the show. And I feel like whenever LAFC is taking on the Galaxy, it's Carlos Vela's show. For a while, it was Zlatan's show, but now I think Vela's taken over this rivalry as the face of this rivalry almost. And the thing that I mentioned before when I was talking about LAFC and their midfield a little bit is just the absolute dominant force that I think this midfield really is. And it's funny, like going into the year, LAFC barely had midfielders signed to their first team roster, and there's a lot of question marks. So they need depth, they need starting quality. Is Jose Cifuentes still going to be there? Whatever it may be. Now it's Kellen, now it's Cifuentes. Now it's Timothy Tillman. Ilie Sanchez is still looking like a dominant D-mid. This midfield is just stacked. It's sick. I think it's the thing outside of Dennis Bouanga that is the most impressive to me about LAFC is just how much this midfield can really control the game for them. And then, for the Galaxy, they're one of only two teams left in Major League Soccer who have failed to win a game in 2023. It's them and Sporting Kansas City. It's not great. I know everything's going on with Chris Klein and fans wanting him out. And he said if, they don't make the playoffs, then he will resign. I think that was a quote that I saw. Honestly, it's the same old story for me at this point for the last 5 years with the Galaxy of this is a team resting on their history. This is not the same team that was dominant in the 90s or early 2000s or whatever you want, or even, whatever later 2000s, whatever you want to say. This is a team that needs a front office overhaul. This is a team that needs to find an identity. And I love Greg Vanny, but right now he's not doing it. Right now he's not getting it done. It's a mess from the top down. I don't really want to dive too much deeper into it because I feel like the free agent signings have been wrong. I feel like the MLS depth pieces that they've signed, they've gotten wrong. You have talents like a Ricky Puig. You have talents like a Gaston Brugman. You have talents like a Dejan Joveljic, and somehow you're still fumbling the bag. Somehow you still can't get a win. I'm talking one win. I'm not talking top of the Western Conference with LAFC or Seattle or St. Louis or anything like that. I'm talking just putting out performances like you look like you're a professional soccer team, and the LA Galaxy have not done that in 2023. So I don't know what it's going to take to fix it outside of maybe more talent, outside of maybe playing a formation that fits the roster, outside of maybe not having Douglas Costa on your roster. I don't know what it is, but the LA Galaxy are abysmal. They've absolutely, people are arguing or talking about, did they lose the city of LA? They lost the city of LA last year. LA is LAFC's town and is no longer the LA Galaxy's town. And that is that is really that of what I have to say about El Tráfico and both LA sides. Really, I just want to give some quick shout out love to St. Louis. I was a little harsh on them after their 2 losses. I never shared that on the podcast because I was mainly me just thinking it, but they come back. They beat a Lucho Costa-less FC Cincinnati team in St. Louis 5-1. I don't think this is a true representation of what this matchup would look like if you played this in the MLS Cup playoffs or anything like that. I do think Lucho Acosta is that much of a difference maker for Cincinnati, but at the end of the day, St. Louis did put the beat down on the team, and they took care of business at home. Joao Klaus, again, Phoebe from Friends, he did the job once again, 2 assists in this one. He didn't get on the scoreboard with everyone else, but he attracted defensive efforts towards him, which just allowed Giacchini and Edward Lovin and everyone else to kind of do their thing offensively. And I will just say, as an overall theme for 2023, Tim Parker and Kyle Hybert, ballers. Tim Parker needed a change. He needed a change of scenery from Houston, and he's absolutely been arguably one of the best center backs in Major League Soccer this season in St. Louis. And Kyle Hybert, what a glow up from MLS Next Pro to now St. Louis, the first team to getting a starting spot after an injury, to now he's getting Canadian men's national team call up. So shout out to him, and honestly, great for him there. And, another dominant win that I just want to give some love to is Portland Timbers beating Seattle Sounders 4-1. Daron Aspria's season is starting early in 2023. Santiago Moreno back on the wing. And look, Asprilla and Moreno on the wings were dominant in this one. And I know a bunch of goals came late, but the wing play really was the reason why Portland really won this game and got a shocking upset win over Seattle, if you ask me. I still think Seattle's the better team, but Portland, they got the job done with, some injured players coming back. I know they lost Eric Williamson, which sucks, but injured players coming back, they got to play a little bit more of a normal formation for the Portland Timbers, and they pick up a big win over their Cascadia Cup rivals. I kind of did this for St. Louis, but just 2 players that I want to give some highlight overall for the season so far. But Zach McGraw at center back and Edwin Mosquera at right back, they've been stellar. Mosquera, has been a standout offensively as just as well as defensively for Portland. And Zach McGraw has really kind of come into his own as a starting center back next to Dario Zuparic. And, I think he is one that if you're a Major League Soccer team, you're upset like you didn't trade for this dude like a year or two ago and get him on your roster, because Zach McGraw was there. Zach McGraw was primed for the taking, and now he's gotten his starting spot and starting opportunity at Portland, and he's taken full advantage of it. He's looked very, very good, really, and I say this first year that he's been able to take over a starting spot. Let's keep things moving. I want to just give quick shout out, quick love to the San Jose Earthquakes, who preseason I did say that they were going to shock people. They were going to be playing for a playoff spot in 2023, and they did that. Jeremy Ebobisse with the brace, Cade Cowell with 2 assists, Christian Espinoza, I think you could argue, has been one of the best attacking options, one of the best players in Major League Soccer in 2023. Carlos Gruezo, I know he was out injured for a week or two, but he's been a top D mid coming back from the Bundesliga to Major League Soccer. And Rodriguez, I think, has been one of the best center backs, and he's been a key to their defensive top play in 2023 as well. Just kind of giving you guys some quick highlights because I want to keep this to a little bit of a shorter episode. I've already been rambling for almost 40 minutes, but we're going to keep going. Chicago Fire, they got a result at home 2-2 versus Philly. Chicago only has 1 loss in 2023. Grinding out results, and I said this to Jason Vivang a few weeks ago on the podcast, that Chicago Fire of old, they would have mentally lost these games and figured out ways to drop points. And yes, they're still technically dropping points, right? 2-2 draw at home isn't the best result in the world, but at the end of the day, they're picking up points where in the past, in 2022 and 2021 and 2020, they would have lost these games. They would have gotten 0 points out of it. So they're not world beaters. They're not the best team in Major League Soccer or even the Eastern Conference, but Chicago is a much better team. And I would argue that they are better with Brian Gutierrez starting at the 10 than Shaqiri. I mean, I'm not saying anything crazy. They've been doing really well with Shaqiri not starting and not at the 10, but that's just me. Want to give major love and major congratulations to LAFC and the Philadelphia Union for moving on in CCL. They both will be playing each other for 2 legs in the CCL semifinals. We will have one of them in the CCL finals against a Liga MX team, either Club Leon or Tigres. If I have an opinion, it'll probably be LAFC versus Tigres. That's just my opinion. That's my prediction. I'm going to keep moving and not really give too much behind it. As I'm recording right now, I'm recording on April 19th, which is the same date as USMNT versus Mexico. I will give a really quick, rough hope. I can probably already look up the starting lineup, but I'm not going to do that because I'm going to give you guys what I think, and we'll see. Starting 11, I would really love to see a Roman Celentano in net, a Serginho Dest at left back, DeAndre Yedlin at right back, Walker Zimmerman with Matt Miazga as that center back pairing, Aiden Morris, Kellen Acosta, and Alan Sonora at that midfield. And then I'd love to see that starting 3 of Jordan Morris, Cade Cowell, and Jesus Ferreira, obviously. Jomo and Cowell at the wing and Ferreira at the 9. Looking ahead really quick to week 9 in Major League Soccer, I'm looking at NYCFC versus Dallas. I'll pick the homer pick of NYCFC here, but Dallas has really been impressive to me. If you guys saw my recent power rankings, I had Dallas at the number 2, which has shocked a lot of people. I really love Dallas right now. I'm really high on them, and I'll probably regret putting them this high in a few weeks, but I really like them. I'm excited to see if they can keep up some road performances, especially against my guys, NYCFC, in week 9. That is it. This has been episode 259. I'm done rambling this week. Thank you guys, and good night.